hands, how many of you guys are working a minimum wage job? All right, and how many of you guys would like to see that minimum wage increase? So about 45% of Americans are working a minimum wage job. That's almost half of the US population. I myself have a minimum wage job and have for about 4 years now, and I see the struggles that my coworkers and I face from a weekly to monthly basis. Just like us, most Americans are struggling to get by even though we're working 40-hour work weeks. The minimum wage in America must be raised and reflect the quickly rising rates of inflation. The minimum wage debate has been going on for decades, arguing whether or not it is important to keep up with inflation. The minimum wage rates throughout California and the rest of the nation have been far below inflation. Rising the minimum wage rates in California will improve the lives of millions of Americans. The minimum wage debate has been going on for decades now, deciding whether or not it is important to increase it. The prices of everything else in America are going up, so why shouldn't minimum wage? The cost of rent is far higher than the average income of a minimum wage employee working full-time. The average rent for a one-bedroom apartment, estimated by rentdata.org, is said to be $2,212. Now for a two-bedroom apartment, it's estimated to be $2,712. And for a three-bedroom apartment, it's $3,658. That's insane. No single mother can afford to rent a three-bedroom household if they have 2 kids. The cost to own a home in California is so much higher. The average cost for a two-bedroom home in California is $394,000. This makes it impossible for a full-time minimum wage employee to afford that. A few decades ago, buying a home with a minimum wage salary was very common. However, in today's society, it's almost never seen. The cost to buy a car has increased faster than minimum wage. On average, cars are sold for more than $36,000 in 2019. It would take about 64 months for a full-time employee to pay that off. That doesn't include taxes, mortgage, rent, anything else. Now that you guys understand the wage gap and how it's affecting Americans, let's dive into the relevance of inflation. The minimum wage rates throughout California and the rest of the nation are far below inflation. The Pew Research Center has claimed that the federal minimum wage has lost about 9.6% of its purchasing power since the last increase in 2009. This means that the money Americans are working hard to make are now buying less and less. Americans are being left in poverty. Starting back in January of 2017, the minimum wage has been increased yearly until 2023. Now, businesses with less than 26 employees are allowed to be 1 year behind the $1 wage increase per year. So this allows for small business owners to have a little bit more time. Some may argue that rising the minimum wage increase would cause small businesses to go out of business. Although this may happen for some, it should not be the employee's problem to worry about where their paycheck comes from. If they can't afford to pay their employees, they should either hire less employees or look for money elsewhere. Having low wage rates would only make more money for large corporations and the 1%. They're already millionaires and shouldn't be the main cause of our government. It is way harder for Americans to work minimum wage jobs with their wage rates. This is a way for Americans to work for cheap labor. If the minimum wage rate would have kept up with inflation, the Economic Policy Institute claims that it would be at $18.75. That is such a big difference. Okay, now that you guys understand how inflation has affected minimum wage workers, let's get into how wage increases will help Americans on a day-to-day basis. Raising the minimum wage in California will improve the lives of millions of Americans. According to the U.S. Census Bureau in 2019, there were 34 million Americans living in poverty, and the official U.S. poverty rate was 10.5%. It isn't just high school students working these jobs, it's single mothers, college students working to pay for rent and their tuition. It may also be employees that might have just lost their job too. Single mothers should be able to afford childcare while working full-time. The average cost of daycare per child is $985 a month. that can cost up to $11,817 per year. Where else are single mothers supposed to leave their children while working? This shouldn't be a problem. The Department of Housing and Urban Development states that in 2019 there were more than 151,000 homeless people in California. This is a 16.4% increase from the previous year. California's homeless population makes up more than 1/4 of the nation's homeless population. Ensuring that California citizens have an opportunity to have an affordable living should be at the top of the government's concern. The minimum wage is far below where it should be and has been for decades or so. These rates are far below inflation, and in order to improve the lives of millions of Americans, this wage gap should be increased and ended, and they should not be left to fend for themselves. I believe that each and every one of you should see the problem and want it fixed, because I am sure that you either know someone working a minimum wage job, if that's not you, or you at least feel for them. Minimum wage working Americans deserve to have their labor rights fought for, and we have the power to change and make it happen. Thank you.